Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Practical Church Podcast. My name is Dotson. I'm your host, and on this show, we help you build better churches, plant healthy churches, and really just help you lead a thriving ministry. Practical tips and way to do that. As always, if you're new to the show, this show is brought to you in partnership with Mission Support. So be sure to check out missionsupport.com. They know you want to be effective in ministry, but if you're like most pastors and ministry leaders, you probably feel like you never have enough time, energy, or expertise to get everything done. And so Mission Support comes alongside pastors and leaders just like you to do a lot of the back-end support that takes a lot of time, energy, and resources. So things like SEO, payroll, websites, coaching, video, audio. I mean, they do so many things. And so I just would encourage you to check out missionsupport.com for some practical solutions. And one of the best things about Mission Support is they don't lock you into contract like other service providers do for various things. And so check out missionsupport.com. Again, they make this show possible. So if you like the show, have learned from it, took things from it, be sure to check them out as well. Today, we're going to talk about 7 reasons people stop attending your church. So let's get into today's episode. All right, 7 reasons why people stop attending your church. As always, some of these things might be a little bit obvious, some of them not as much. The last 2, I'll just want to do one of those hook things. The last 2 might not be what you expect. And so I'm going to just share kind of some of what these things are, explain them a little bit, but hopefully maybe to encourage you if you're battling some discouragement and what to do about these things. But here are kind of 7 primary reasons, maybe some of the biggest reasons that people stop attending your church in general. And so what we're talking about today. Let's get to the first one. Number 1, they move. I think this is really important. I think all areas, some areas are more transient than others. College towns, military towns, places with a lot of young people, coming in, that sort of thing. But here's the reality. Regardless of where you live, pretty much everywhere, at least in America, is more transient now than it was 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. It's easier to move, digital, work from home. Like, it's just a lot easier. And so, whereas, 30, 40, 50 years ago, people talked about plateauing churches, like churches that aren't growing in attendance. My personal experience talking with other pastors, and I think just our context that we're in today, that you could be maintaining your attendance average over year, let's say, and that doesn't make you a plateauing church. New cities in Raleigh, North Carolina, so there's, a good bit of turnover, people coming and going, or people coming to Raleigh, they really like it, they're renting, and then they want to buy a house, and they can't afford it, and so they got to move 30, 45 minutes away outside of Raleigh, and so that's the reason why we have a lot of that. Of course, like anyone else, we have some people who just stop coming for this reason or that, who don't move away, but it seems the primary reason we lose people in New City Church, at least especially people that are involved, our partners, is because they move away. The primary reason. In fact, as I'm recording this episode on a Monday morning, last Sunday I spoke to 3 people, so a single guy and a young family, who both shared they're moving. They're moving, which is just like such a typical thing. So they move. Now I share that to try to encourage you that a lot of places, if your attendance, partners, their community groups, serving, that sort of thing, is the same year over year, that doesn't mean you're plateauing. Plateauing, I think in our case, is like maybe a 10 to 20% decrease in attendance every year, because people are just so transient. And so it also takes, when somebody moves and you have somebody new, let's say it's their last Sunday because they're moving, and it's somebody's first Sunday because they're brand new. And let's say that person who's that first Sunday is going to end up getting connected and become a partner, member, all that sort of thing. Well, it's going to take that person who's their first week some time. Whereas that new person, or the person that's moving, is moving away like right now. And so like even like staying at replacement level, I think means that you're not plateauing. And so I just want to say this. I would encourage you, maybe if you're discouraged by attendance, lack of growth, that sort of thing, is to sit and reflect on how many people that were connected to your church who are no longer connected. Is it because they actually move? And honestly, there is nothing you can do about that. There is literally nothing you can do about somebody moving away. So hopefully to encourage you a little bit, a big reason people stop coming to your church is because they move away. And if that's the case, like, you can't do anything. Like, there's literally nothing that you can do about it. But that is a big, big, big reason in our transient culture today why people leave your church. And again, nothing you can do about that one. So number 1, they move. Number 2, they never get connected. In our culture today, if somebody's not connected, I don't see them sticking around very much. So we just live in a very individualistic culture. It's all about like, at least we're told like, what do I want? My preferences, my needs. We're kind of encouraged, we have all these options, Netflix, our phones, video games, whatever, to stay home and entertain ourselves. Now, it's always better for us to get out of the house, introverted or extroverted, be around people. Like sometimes we don't feel like doing it, but we're always kind of more grateful after the fact. But our culture just kind of says like, hey, stay home, do your thing. And so if people aren't getting connected, I don't think you can really expect them to stay at your church very long. Again, this is a little bit anecdotal. This is just our experience in Raleigh. We trend a little bit, maybe 20s, early 30s. This is probably our biggest clump of age demographic at New City. What we've noticed is like if somebody's been showing up for about 6-ish months and they have not really taken a step of connection, they're probably not going to stick around. And so maybe they come twice, even if they come maybe 2 to 3 times a month. If they're not giving or in a group or serving, not doing any of those things, it's not to say they have to be doing all those things to show they're going to stick around. If they're not doing any of those things, I mean, it's just a sign that they're not going to do it. Now, maybe they're coming to church because it's a cultural thing, or maybe it makes them feel good. But I think it's just hard to come to a church with any consistency and to start build relationships and not connecting. Now, I guess the caveat would be is if it's not clear how people can take their next step. If they're new, like what their next step is. There's been some recent episodes on the Practical Church podcast, like in the last 3 or 4, you can go back and listen to, about just connecting like new guests to your church and giving them a next step. So maybe your next step process is confusing, but even still, if somebody's sticking around for 6-ish months and they're still not doing anything, that's probably a good sign that they're going to stop attending your church at some point. And so again, with the size dynamics and just how our church operates, we can just kind of tell. Like I can kind of tell if they've been around for like 6-ish months. And like as I'm sharing this, there's a couple people in my mind, like at our church, where I'm like, it would not shock me at all if they just decide to stop showing up at some point because they haven't really taken that step of connection. And not to say we haven't tried or talked with them. Of course, you can't force people to do things. And of course, people are welcome. And maybe the other caveat of this is too, this doesn't hold for people who are not Christians and they're checking out this church thing. That's different. I'm more so people who are Christians, have church experience, are followers of Jesus. If it's been 6-ish months, and they're not connected yet, it's probably a good sign at some point they will stop attending if they don't take another step. So that's the second reason they never get connected. Number 3. Now this one might be the one that's kind of maybe more obvious, but it's they are upset about something. So people leave because they're upset about something. Now sometimes I just want to say sometimes it is legit. Maybe they were they fell through the cracks, somebody wronged them, whatever, somebody decision, and there wasn't appropriate repentance or that sort of thing. Like sometimes it is legit. And even like if your church seeks to love and to serve people well, there's still going to be times where somebody says something, somebody does something, somebody doesn't follow up in the way that they promised, and it can be hurtful. Especially the newer someone is to your church and the less relational capacity you have, the less likely they're going to stick around. So again, I'll give an example. My wife and I ended up sticking around at this church just because, I don't know, we were really intentional about joining a church and being a part of a church, but years ago we were part of a church and we tried twice to sign up to serve. First time we just did like the normal, I don't remember how we did it, like the Connect card type thing. Nobody followed up with us. Like we did the thing, we filled it out, and there was nothing. The second time, they actually did a serve push Sunday where they had cards in every single seat. We literally filled out the card and did not get responded to. Now I'm like, what happened? Maybe it got thrown away. I don't know. I don't know what happened. We literally did not get responded to. Now we stuck around the church because we kept taking steps, whatever. But I'm like, for most people, especially if they're invited by a friend or they just show up, that's a legit reason to leave a church. If nobody's following up with you, I get it. So sometimes it's legit. Sometimes it's not legit, but it still happens. Maybe there's a tough conversation that had to be had, or maybe there was, an attitude or sin or whatever that's brought to their attention, and they just don't like it. And they leave. Now, of course, these things can be brought to people's attention in not a good way, but also the way of Jesus is grace and truth. And we've got to remember how secular culture defines love is not how the Bible defines love. The secular culture defines love as everything I want is good because I want it. You must affirm me. You must not get in my way. As long as I'm quote unquote not hurting somebody else, I can hurt myself. I can harm myself. I can do whatever I want. And if you don't support me 100%, you don't love me. The biblical definition of love is you love, you care for people, but you want good for them. And Jesus says the most important commandment is to love God and love others. So our framing of love, first and foremost, is this something that loves and honors God and his commands? If it is, or if it's neutral, the second thing is, okay, if this person is engaging in something or wanting to do something that does not love God and his commands, it should be addressed. That's the first frame. And the second frame is we want to treat people with love and kindness and grace. And so sometimes biblical love is confronting an attitude or an issue or a sin or something. And people can leave because of that. So we've experienced that at New City Church. You probably have as well. But number three, people can stop attending your church because they are upset about something. And my encouragement is, for me as a church leader, said this to me and to our staff and for you, is to kind of always wonder, okay, what could we have done better? Or is there anything that we did to mishandle the situation to learn better for the future? Just don't assume. I think in church world, it's just easy to kind of assume that like anytime somebody leaves and they're mad, it's on them and they should have been more mature, or they should have known better, or they should have done X, Y, and Z. And sometimes they should be more mature or known better, or maybe they should have followed up or whatever. But sometimes like it's on us and we got to own it. So they are upset about something. It's the third reason sometimes people leave your church. Again, it's a little anecdotal. In our experience, I don't think this is a big reason. And maybe the caveat with that one is, for people who are partners and are connected at New City Church, I don't think people are typically leaving because they're upset about something, because there's a relational capacity there, dynamic that we have. I could say maybe if somebody's newer and maybe we say or do something and they're not connected, they won't tell us. That's why they left. They just stopped showing up. So that could happen. I don't know if this makes me think. I don't know if this is necessarily like someone was mad, but last January, not this year, but last year, 2024, we preached a series called Controversial Jesus. And one of the sermons was on gender and sexuality, just walking through, here's what the scripture says about it. And what did they say? They filled out a card, or I don't know how we got this information. Maybe they filled out a Connect card and we followed up with them and they just responded. I honestly cannot remember how they got this information. But their response was essentially, I am looking for a church that affirms my view of gender and sexuality. Now, they didn't necessarily use gender and sexuality, but like their view of like gender. And maybe it was something to that effect. And it was like, okay, here's what the scripture says about it. We're going to preach what the scripture says about it. At least you can be honest that like you're looking for something that already kind of affirms your pre-existing worldview. And so maybe that's the reason they didn't come back. But generally speaking, the reason people leaving for being upset, and your experience might be different, so I get that. It's because they're not super connected. If they are pretty connected, you have to do something pretty egregious, and that certainly can happen for people to be upset and to leave, unless it's like a repeated thing. So that's number three. They're upset, and so they leave. Number four, they attend infrequently. This is a big red flag. They attend infrequently. Here's how I would define infrequently. Once-ish a month. So they attend about once a month. In my experience, especially again, and how our culture is today, you either go to church or you don't. And you get connected and it's a part of your spirituality and your faith, or it's not. Coming once a month just doesn't make a lot of sense. You don't really build relationships. And so it's much easier just to come and go. Nobody really knows you. It's not a habit in your life. And so if it's like once a month, it's very much like, hey, if I feel like going, and the less you do something, the easier it is to just stay in bed and all that sort of thing. And so here's how I would just say this. Maybe this sounds wrong, but just my experience, about once a month. Now, if somebody, this is generally speaking, there are exceptions. If somebody is coming about once a month, it also is not worth your time to continually try to invest and pursue that person. Now, this is a little bit about size dynamics. And so if you're a lead pastor, maybe that's different than if you're like a student pastor or something like that. Maybe I should just speak to the lead pastor for a second. Although I think this carries. There have been times where like somebody's like, hey, I want to meet with you, or I want to do this, X, Y, and Z. And they come about once a month and they want, for example, they can only meet in the evenings. And I, generally speaking, won't do that. We've been doing this for 8 years, my wife and I now. And so like with our ages of our kids, I mentioned this in previous episodes, ages of our kids, that sort of thing. Like our evenings are pretty protected. We will do church events and we will meet with our church people in the evenings, but we're not going to give our evenings away to people who are like pretty infrequent. Now, it's different if they're like brand new and that sort of thing, but if somebody comes just like once a month, I would not like spend all of my time and energy trying to invest in them. I would invest in the people who like, hey, this is their church home, generally speaking. And so all to say, just don't be surprised and don't be too discouraged if somebody who attends infrequently stops coming, because again, there's not a connection there. And if it's not a habit, it's not going to continue. Again, my experience, they come about once a month, something happens in their life, maybe we help lead them in the right direction, we get them connected and they start attending more, or they just stop attending altogether. Most people There are exceptions, sure. Most people will not attend a church once a month for, I don't know, longer than 6-ish months. Because it also could just become awkward maybe for them because they don't know anybody, it feels weird, and they feel like maybe they should know people, and it can be hard. So if they attend infrequently, so again, engaging infrequent attenders might be an area of potential growth. But if somebody who attends infrequently will likely leave your church soon unless something changes. That was number 4. Number 5, they don't align with vision or the direction of the church. They don't align with the vision or direction of the church. Can I just say, this is not a bad thing necessarily. It is not always a bad thing. It does not mean that the vision or direction the church is going is wrong. And it also does not mean that they're not faithful followers of Jesus. People have different preferences and desires, and God could be calling someone in your church who maybe has a different vision or direction than what your church is doing to, might be calling them to a ministry or a church that they can get really, really excited about. And so as you talk about vision and mission, maybe you have to make some changes here and there. I would always just say it is okay if some people are like, hey, I'm not into that, not excited about that. I think we're going to go somewhere else. Now, you want to handle those conversations in love and in grace and encouraging, even if they're hard to have. Encourage people to do what they think God's calling them to do. Even sometimes maybe if you disagree, you can't really argue someone back. But I just want to say it's okay if you have the desire. There's not one perfect church. God uses all different types of churches to reach all different types of people. And if the direction and vision your church is going, man, somebody is not about that or excited about it or can get behind it, it's honestly also better for your church as well that they might get connected somewhere else so that they don't drag the morale and the direction from other people. You don't really want someone who's a follower of Jesus grumbling and complaining why are we doing this? Now, again, there's a difference between somebody asking questions and some people, might take a little bit more time to get on board. That's fine. But if they don't align with your vision direction, at some point, especially if you talk about it a lot, which I think is a good thing, we talk about changes that are coming up. That's okay. Now, it's not fun. It can be discouraging, especially maybe if somebody's been with your church for a while. And of course, when churches grow or when they move or if there's some sort of significant shift that can change how the church operates and functions. And so that can be hard for people. I just want to say again, number 5, they don't align with vision and direction. To encourage you, yes, it stinks to lose people, but in the long run, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, number 5. Now, those are the first 5. Number 6 and 7 might be not what you expect, but again, we've been doing this for some time. Here's what we've come to learn. Number 6 is this. They don't give financially. So a reason, this is 6 in this order, not necessarily in this order, but in this episode. 6th reason why people stop attending your church, they don't give financially. Again, side note here, if they're not a follower of Jesus yet, don't expect them to give. That's different. I'm talking about people who are followers of Jesus or claim to be followers of Jesus, and they don't give financially. In our experience, most people that are followers of Jesus who don't give financially don't stick around for forever. Now, part of that might be is we talk about money sometimes at New City Church. Part of that is to be a partner at New City, we ask you to give, and we follow up on that every single year. And so maybe it's just well, they keep talking about it. I don't want to do it. And maybe some of this is I literally tell our people that if you're a follower of Jesus and you've been coming for more than 6 to 9 months and you don't want to give financially, you should go to a church that you can support, that you want to financially get behind. That's what you should do. You should go to a church that you feel excited about, excited about supporting and partnering with. And so I would just say who are the people that are connected to our church or come that and they don't give financially. I would not be surprised if they leave. Here's the deal. When people give financially, not only are they taking steps of generosity and trusting the Lord, it just buys them in. If you're going to give money to something, you want to see it succeed. You want to see it succeed. If you don't give money to something, you're less tied to whether it works or not. It's not, you don't really, if it works, great. If not, it doesn't, you haven't invested in it, and you have not invested in it. And so if it doesn't go well, it doesn't succeed, it doesn't really affect you as much, certainly doesn't affect you as emotionally. And even, just wanting your dollars to go in the right direction. So I would just say, man, if you want people to keep attending your church, you should talk about generosity and why it's important and not be afraid, not to apologize for it and that sort of thing. If they don't give financially, at some point, if they're followers of Jesus or claim to be followers of Jesus, they will likely stop attending your church. Again, I'm just trying to think through our case. There's not that many people who don't give financially at some point. Now, this can take a little bit longer. Again, it's easier to serve or to join a community group than it is to commit financially. But I'm saying even if they give $20 a month, $25 a month, $50 a month. That's still a step, and that still matters and gets them connected. So they don't give financially. Again, in our case at New City, I've shared this before, we do two things that might help incentivize and show people what's going on. We give quarterly giving statements instead of just at the end of the year, so they get some more information about that. And then if you're a partner at New City, we send a monthly partnership email with some financial updates, behind the scenes things, decisions that are coming up, that sort of thing, which I think helps incentivize, hey, we got nothing to hide here, and makes people feel like connected and they know what's going on. And so I think that helps as well. And if you give financially and you're a partner, you're going to get that email. And to be a partner, you have to give financially. So I think that helps as well. Again, if they don't give financially, it's a sign that at some point they probably will leave your church unless they start giving at some point. I don't think there's a lot of people in New City that have been coming, at least for over a couple of years, that don't give. There's probably not a single person at New City Church that's been coming for 2 or 3 years at least and doesn't give financially. And not because we never say you have to give financially to come to New City. It's just kind of like, hey, if you're invested, you're going to stick around, and if not, you probably won't. I also want to say this. Most people, I don't think that most people who give financially are only attending once a month. Now, what can happen, somebody sets up, auto giving and they kind of forget about it. And then maybe they stop, something's going on in their life. They kind of get more lazy in their faith or stop taking it as intentionally. Someone who attends more and gives financially, they can kind of maybe backslide it to once a month. But most people who only come once a month aren't going to start giving financially. And so if they give financially, they're probably going to show up more often as well because it's a bigger deal to them. So the sixth reason someone might stop attending your church, they don't give financially. And then number 7, you encourage them to connect with a church they can connect with. Now, this might be like, that doesn't really happen. This is on the rarer side at New City, but it does happen. At New City, when we want people, my big thing is we got to be following Jesus in community. We are not the church for everybody. And so if we are not the church for you, you should find a church that you can connect with. And so there are times where I've had emails or conversations with people that say, hey, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z in a church. I'm not really finding it here. Can you send me some recommendations? Now, sometimes it's hard because, again, I don't know what every single church in the Raleigh area is doing, but I do try to look it up a little bit. People that I do know pastors that I do know that have churches that might be what this person is looking for. We even stay from stage, during our Connect moment, which I've talked about many times on the show. Our first part of next steps or announcements is if you're new, fill a Connect card. And one of the things we say is we encourage you to try 3 at New City because we think after 3 weeks, you'll know whether or not this is the church for you. And it's kind of this idea of this might not be the church for me, but there is one out there. And so I've had conversations over the years of people who are newer or maybe have been coming for a while and are looking for something a little bit different. And that we encourage them to find that. And I think maybe at some point these people will probably leave eventually, probably anyway. But for some people, it does speed up the process. And of course, it's not fun. But listen, if they're not connecting spiritually, thriving, if this is not a place where they're growing closer to Jesus, as much as I want them to be at New City, I want them to be somewhere where they're growing closer to Jesus. And if it's not New City for any number of reasons, and there could be a number of reasons because we are just one church. There's tons of churches in the Raleigh area that are biblically sound and are awesome. Biblically sound and awesome. And they should go there. And so, I would just say you encourage them not to connect. You encourage them to connect with the church they can connect with. Might mean they leave. On the flip side, we have had people, and again, I don't know how much of this really influenced their decision to stay. We have had people say, we thought it was so cool, when we were new, that you said, or in a conversation, or talking to somebody, because it's not just me, our staff does it. I think some of our people have done it because they've heard me talk about it. We had someone say, hey, they'd help us find another church. We just thought that was so cool. You guys are Team Jesus. When we heard that, we were in. I've heard that multiple times. I will say, I have had more conversations of, can you help me find another church, than I've had, hey, when you said that, we were in. So I'm for a church growth strategy, this isn't necessarily going to help you. But I do think people appreciate it. And it's also it's true. Again, as much as we want people to stick around and get connected to a New City, I genuinely want people to be thriving in their relationship with Jesus, and it's really hard to do that. I would even submit that you cannot do that if you're following Jesus in isolation without community. So if you encourage people to connect with a church that they can better connect with, we say things like, hey, you should join a church that you are comfortable giving financially to, if not New City. Some people will take you up on that, and that is okay. Again, the reminder here, Not every time somebody leaves your church is a bad thing. There are good, legitimate reasons why people leave churches, and even though it's hard and it stinks, it's not a bad thing, okay? So, again, I'll just recap them again, 7 reasons. Hopefully maybe this encourages you at least a little bit, that you're not necessarily doing something wrong, or maybe give you some areas that maybe you could focus on. 7 reasons people stop attending your church. They move. Again, there's literally nothing you can do about that, number 1. Number 2, they never get connected. Number 3, they are upset about something. Number 4, they attend infrequently. Number 5, they don't align with your vision or direction. Again, not necessarily a bad thing. Number 6, they don't give financially. And number 7, you encourage them to connect with a church that they can better connect with. Here is my ministry observation for this episode. Here's a reminder. Don't think out loud about plans or share them before they are ready. So don't from stage, maybe even from staff or meetings with people, don't think out loud about plans or share them before they are ready. Now, there are places where you need to verbally process decisions that you have to make. Staff meetings, getting feedback from people, that's a good thing. And I would encourage that. There is a difference between saying, hey, we are thinking about X, Y, and Z. What do you think? Or if we made this decision, what questions do you have? There's a difference between that and saying, hey, this is the direction we're going to go for the church. Here's why we're thinking about doing it. Here's probably what's going to do. What can happen is that if you're not a little bit more clear and concise about what's going to happen, people can start losing their trust and their confidence in you. So again, there's a difference between, hey, let me talk you through this. And we're not saying we're going to do this yet, but what do you think about this? Versus, hey, we're actually thinking about doing this as a church. Let me kind of explain what we're doing, why we're doing it. And it's very convoluted and it hasn't been thought through yet. I've done this myself. I've just seen it. The people's eyes start to glaze over and they start to lose confidence if it doesn't sound like you know what you're talking about. Now, any decision that you make, obviously there's humility. There's we don't know how this is going to end, but here's what we're doing and here's why. If it comes across as, hey, we're thinking of this, but we are going to do it, but we're not quite sure. And what do you think? And there's a difference between how, I don't know if this distinction is helpful, and how you set up those conversations. There's been times, at staff meeting at New City where I'm with our staff and talking about something I'm thinking about wanting us to do. And I can tell people are I don't really know what he's talking about. Again, there's a difference between hey, let's talk about this, and hey, we are doing this, but I haven't completely thought it through. You will lose confidence and lose trust in your people. So I just want to say, for what it's worth, don't think out loud about plans or share them before they are ready. If you're still developing them, be clear, hey, we are thinking about this. But if you're kind of sharing them from a place of, hey, we're doing this, but then you're kind of thinking out loud how it's going to work, it's not going to go well. You'll lose confidence and trust, so don't do that. Well, today's personal growth tip has to do with fighting our distracted environment. Maybe I want to encourage you with this. If you struggle to focus or to stay on task, or with spending too much time on your phone, it's important to remember that it isn't simply due to a lack of willpower. It's important to remember that our modern environment is set up for you to fail. Our modern environment is set up for you to be distracted and not focused. For example, social media apps are designed with tons of money and really smart people to keep you on the platform. Notifications, gamifications of apps and software, and the fear of missing out are designed to keep you coming back. Advertisers mine your personal data to make you less content with what you have. So of course you're going to search things and be content or discontent and want things that you don't have. So here's why knowing this matters. Instead of blaming yourself, I should just be better. Instead of blaming yourself, focus on creating an environment that will help you fight back. Don't rely on willpower alone. You see, none of us can successfully win the war of our attention in the world that we currently live in. There's just too much going on, too many distractions, too many screens. We can't do that. And so instead of trying to win the war of our attention, instead what we should do is that we should create rhythms and habits and routines to help us focus as best we can given our technological age. So for example, here are some things that I do that I found helpful and maybe would encourage you to consider as well. For example, I take email off of my phone. Take email off your phone so you're not incessantly just checking it as much. I turn off all notifications on my phone, absolutely all of them. The only notification I get is my phone buzzes when I'm getting a phone call, which doesn't happen very often. Text messages, email, I don't have email, social media, I don't have any notifications, no buzzing, no even like the little red icon, I don't have that. The only way I know, or the only way I can see if something's going on, if someone's texted me, is to go into the app itself. And I checked it enough as it is, that I don't need an extra notification taking my attention away. So turn off all notifications on your phone. You could decide what times of the day you won't check your phone. So instead of just saying anytime I feel bored, I'll just pull this phone out of my pocket. It's like, no, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., I don't pull out my phone for anything. From 1 to 2 p.m., I don't check my phone for anything. Decide what times of day you won't check your phone. You can decide what times of day you won't check social media, news, and other time-sucking sites. So you can say, for example, here are the 2 times a day during my workday that I'm going to check email, and I'm not going to check it other than that. Or here are 2 or 3 times during the day that I'll allow myself to check social media or to check the news. And other than these time frames that maybe are even on my calendar, I'm not going to do it. You can turn off your phone at night before you go to bed. Like, not just like at bedtime, but like 45 minutes before you go to bed. Here's the habit that I've developed. My phone gets turned off. Now I can still get on my computer or do various things, but like, I'm not going to sit there, scroll on videos or like mindlessly check things, check texts for no reason if my phone is actually turned off. Now I could obviously turn on my phone anytime I wanted to, but that friction keeps me from just like mindlessly pulling out my phone and wasting time and shortening my attention span. So I would just say this, like, it's not about willpower. It's about creating an environment to help you fight our distracted age. The goal, again, is not to will yourself to focus better, but to predetermine your game plan, what it will be to help fight distractions. It will never be perfect. It will never be perfect, but it can get better. Habits, not willpower, will be of better help. Today's question comes from our Practical Church Facebook group. So be sure to, if you're on Facebook, to join the group, ask questions, connect with other leaders and pastors. Recently, Mike from our Practical Church Facebook group said this. It says, what resources have you found useful for small group curriculum? We are in the process of raising and equipping people to lead small groups, and I find that having a curriculum for them to follow makes it a lot less intimidating. I want to say this. Kudos to Mike to be intentionally thinking through this. One of the biggest problems churches have with their small groups, community groups, whatever you call them, is they don't give their leaders the curriculum that they're going to use. Instead, leave it up to the leaders. And what happens is it's a lot of work. People have to decide what they're going to do. They don't know if it's good or not. They typically assign book studies where you have to do homework and then nobody does the homework and then people stop showing up. Not good. If you want more group leaders and want to start more groups more easily, you need to give your group leaders whatever they need to lead their group. Now at New City, we do sermon-based groups. Sermon-based groups, done it for years. We stick to them. I'm not saying they're the best or the only, it's just what we do. It makes it really simple. We send out the leader guide on Thursday every week for the sermon that's going to be preached that Sunday. And they get the questions. People can, if they don't get through, we tell our leaders, it's okay if you don't get through all the questions. If you want to add some of your own questions, you can. We have leaders that do that. But if you just want to, hey, here's the material we're going to go through, all you have to do is read it and ask the questions, do discussion, facilitate. It's simple, really easy. My encouragement is, Mike, and anyone listening, have all your groups be on the same curriculum. Now, we like the sermon-based community groups because they're easy to make. We make them every week. But whatever you do, you should tell your people, here's what we're doing. And then you should say, if you're going to be this type of small group at our church, this is what it looks like. You got to run this curriculum. So whatever you decide, I would find a curriculum and have everybody run it so it takes all the guesswork out. And here's another positive. To raise up new group leaders, you want them to know what it looks like to lead a group. So again, problem with churches trying to start new small groups when they are not clear on what a small group is and the curriculum they go over is that the person who then wants to start a group, potentially, they don't necessarily know what they should do, what they should choose either if they don't have a strong group or a group leader. So we'd like sermon-based small groups. I don't think you have to do that. Certainly don't have to do that. But I would, whatever you do, if you do, pick a curriculum, pick a study, whatever, and have all of your groups go through it. Tell your group leaders what they are so they don't have to figure it out on their own. That is my recommendation. As always, thanks so much for joining me today on the Practical Church Podcast. If you want more from me, you can go to DylanDotson.com/best. Sign up for my Best Minute newsletter that I send out every Tuesday morning. If you want more from the show, you can go to missionsupport.com/practical. And while you're there, check out missionsupport.com as well. See the services, see how they can help you enjoy ministry again. So check them out. They're a big reason this show exists. And so give them some love. And then finally, again, if you're on Facebook, as I mentioned earlier, be sure to join the Practical Church Facebook group. As always, thanks for joining. Share this with an episode with somebody if you found it helpful. And I'll be back with you in 2 weeks for another episode of the Practical Church Podcast.